if we want them to go somewhere different, if we just rattle a bag to them, it's surprising how they will follow.
And would these have been her sheep?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I think they were hers.
Was
yes.
that quite a fairly common thing?
Because she lived out near James at Dalton.
Okay. So it was fairly a regular thing for women to have their own flocks of sheep, or
not very many.
Right.
No. Quite often, if they were, it was that they'd been left widows, or they were an unmarried daughter and was the last one in a farm or anything like that. But not many women started up on their own farming, not then. But, it's different. They have different opportunities now. That
would it have been frowned upon, do you think?
It was looked, shall we look, a bit askance then. It wasn't quite the thing, for ladies to be farming. That yes, when I used to take lambs to market, if Eric was busy, yes, I was very much in the minority, and yes, some would be trying to take advantage, when it came to buying or anything like that. But now it's far different. I mean, women have far more say and they have far more clout, and it is different altogether.
So if, like, a lady was widowed, and would she take over the farm, or what would...
It depends. It depends how big the farm was, if it was their own farm. The majority of farms were rented, you see then, that there weren't so many farmer owner-occupiers then. Mostly were rented, so it would depend on the landlord.
Okay.
Yes, and there was no security of tenure, not for women, because it would be almost certainly just in the man's name. There wouldn't be husband and wife partnerships then. So quite often, as well as losing her husband, she would be out of a home and no income. There was Mrs. Snell near here. She'd got a very good workman. She was widowed with Angela's mother-in-law.
Okay, yeah.
Grandmother-in-law. Yes, grandmother-in-law. Roger's grandmother. And she'd got several children. A couple of the boys were getting on old enough to be working, but not managing it. But she had a very good workman, and kept the farm going for the sons to carry on. And our sister-in-law's mother was left. Her eldest one was about 16. But they had a very good workman, but she was very much a business lady. And she carried on. That was a rented farm, so yes, that was later on from Mrs. Snell. But yes, she was a very business-like lady and carried on until the sons were old enough to take over the tenancy. But that was in agreement with the landlord.
Right.
If they hadn't agreed to that, she wouldn't have been able to have done that. And then when she was over 100 and her mind had gone and you think it's very sad that people then only knew her like that, didn't know her as the very businesslike and very efficient and very practical lady that she had been. So.
And was it common for women to work outside the farm, or...?
Not ever so much, no. Yes, some did. As I say, it was more likely to be workmen's wives or casually during like hoeing time, because that was a bit like a Forth Bridge. As soon as you finish hoeing the field, you start again. And singling out there are a lot of roots then. That was turnips, Swedes, mangels, which I don't know anybody that grows mangels now. Mangelwurzels, but we always called them mangels. And they had to be probably hoed out 3 times before they got big enough not to have to do it, by hand. And single laid as well, because you sow the seed and they're much too thick, so they have to be, and that's a very skilled job, because you get them all single laid and then you have the one you want to leave.
But years ago, I used to buy all my reed off of Arthur Webber, over at One Hills, which is across the valley from me at the back.
Right.
And I bought all my reed from them. But then I wasn't using so much because wheat reed is slower to use than water reed.
Right.
And as I said, we were doing it all off a ladder, so that slowed it down again.
Right.
So you wouldn't need vast quantities.
What's the difference in that? I understand the words, but what's the difference between water reed and wheat reed?
Wheat reed is grown in a field as a dual crop. You get the corn and the reed. And also when it's combed out, there are some residue, so that's straw as well, so that's bedding. So it's like a 3-dimensional crop.
Right.
Water reed is a marsh grass, basically, grows in or around wet areas, and that is the crop. There's nothing else comes from it.
Right.
And
you said that was easier to use, did you?
It's cleaner. Everything about it is easier.
Right.
But it's usually comes from abroad, and as a consequence, at the time it was much dearer than the local wheat reed.
Right.
That's completely reversed now.
Right.
In as much as water reed is so available now from anywhere. I mean, it comes from, we're using a lot of Chinese because it's, at the moment, we feel it's the best.
Right.
And that is less dependent on weather. Whereas the wheat reed, it's a different thing because you've got 2 seasons. Water reed is cut when everything is frozen, so you can drive on the lake with thick ice with machines and cut it. Wheat reed is cut in the summer, so you're very dependent on the weather to ripen it. There's a whole process with wheat reed that basically you cut it when it's still slightly green, you stook it in a field that's all these little wigwams to make it a bit more weatherproof, but then you leave it to 7 to 10 days depending on the weather to just ripen that little bit more. Then it's gathered in, and then it's left to stand for several weeks, and then you comb it with the reed comber. So there's
the tops and bottoms.
Yeah. So there's a much higher risk of all along the route that the weather's going to spoil it. Whereas because you're not worried about corn, you only cut the water reed when the weather's right. So it's a totally different thing.
And now the more common reed is the water reed.
I would say 90% of our work is
right. Is that the better reed for a roof?
It's a difficult one because both did well. I mean, all the roofs around here were all wheat reed.
Right.
But and at one stage in the early 70s, you literally had to fight the conservation officer for permission to change it from wheat reed to water reed. But as usual, people in high places don't understand is if there wasn't any wheat reed to be had because of the weather conditions prevalent at the time of harvest, then you had to use something else. But they couldn't seem to get their head around that. And a good thatcher can make it so you can't tell the difference in look.
Right.
So as I used to be heavily involved with the Thatching Association, and we used to have regular meetings with conservation officers, I managed to educate them that we can make it look exactly the same, and every roof is just transient. Next time round, if there's good wheat reed, you could put wheat reed on. We're not changing it to the degree that it's irreversible.
Right.
And they've finally come around to that now. But it was hard work. There's a lot of people sort of threatening court actions and things like this. But they're more pragmatic now, and they will see reason. Certainly the ones around here are realistic about it.
Complicated stuff.
It is.
It's still in reassurance. Right, okay. This is cottage thatch being repaired. Ian Rose.
Oh, right.
Atherington.
One of me, is it? Oh yeah, crumbs, look at the neighbour hair then. Oh blimey, I haven't seen this one. I really haven't. Oh, that's quite amusing. Yeah, well, that's Wheatreed. See, I'm just trying to think where that is. That will be Tray Lane, Old Tray Lane, up the village. There's like a, like a three-sided enclave there that thatched down. Strangely enough, we've got to thatch one of them now.
Right.
With scaffolds gone up, and that's my next job. So,
See, you don't remember the photo being taken.
I don't. I honestly don't. Cool. I wouldn't mind a copy of that one for my kids. They won't believe I was that thin.
I'm sure we can sort that out. I'm sure we can sort that
Yeah,
out.
they'll be amazed at that one. I look like an SAS bloke with a moustache like that.
I was asked to ask if you were into Led Zeppelin.
No, that's just the way it was. I find that quite funny. Yeah, I like that one.
So what's all this doing here?
That's just tied up into bundles so that I'm probably going to put that on the ridge, and it just makes it easier if you tie it up on the ground. It makes it less time that you're up on your knees on the roof.
Right.
That's all. Bit of preparation. Yeah, some people don't, some people do. I always do because I like to stamp it down, get all the ends all on one level, and I just think it's a better system for me.